Yes. How many? Guten Morgen, Europa. Good morning, everybody. Welcome from Zagreb to Moscow, from Istanbul to Brest. Welcome to the first public debate on European universities. My name is Tino Brömme. I'm the host of this conversation about a new phenomenon in higher education, that is European University Alliances. These are kind of experimental networks that work with each other and with their surroundings, with their innovative ecosystems for a better Europe. At least Emmanuel Macron wanted it like this. I'm very happy that we have this conversation here today at the Berlin Science Week. I want to thank Christine Brummer and her team for the excellent work, and I will go into the program of the Berlin Science Week afterwards, which is the whole week with hundreds of interesting presentations and talks about science, about research, about education, and they have never been as online as this year, as you can imagine. I'm also very happy that we had a lot of participants online registered to this talk from all over the place. These are members of University Alliance, but also interested citizens who want to participate in this discussion, who want to participate in shaping education policy. So for our part, we have installed Slido. This is an online platform where you can insert your questions or rate the questions of others. You just digit in slido.com or slide.do and our event code, which is UUU, like European Universities and another U. And then you can enter your questions, which we will possibly read during the conversation. Let me just say this is the first of a series that we want to repeat every month with new members of University Alliances. This is the first time to do this kind of format online from me too. So if something goes wrong, your screen turns black or the screen starts to smoke or your laptop explodes, it's certainly my fault, so my apologies in advance. So, but now let's start and welcome our guests. We have, in the first half of our conversation, we have three guests, Daniela Trani, Ludovic Tilly, and Peter van der Heyden. Daniela Trani, she's the director of the Youth Alliance. She's joining us from Maastricht. And she has studied physics, oncology, and biotechnology. And she's a great, her great passion is space exploration. Actually, she was candidate in the last ESA astronaut selection in 2008, so her passion goes into the wide. Her counterpart is Ludovic Tilly, who is the coordinator of the EC2U Alliance from Poitiers. He's also a physicist, but he goes into the microscopically small. He is studying the deformation of nanomaterials. We come to him in a moment. And our third member of the conversation here in the first half is Peter van der Heyden. He is independent strategy analyst, strategy advisor for universities. He has worked in the European Commission for 23 years, as well in the research as in the education department. And he will be kind of the advocatus diaboli, and he can interfere when he has questions or something during the debate. Let's start now with Dottoressa Trani. Ms. Trani, welcome to our debate. You know, I'm mostly interested in examples, concrete examples. The Youth Alliance is consisting of is a very big alliance of 10 universities who came together to work together. What can you do as an alliance that you cannot do alone as Maastricht University, for example?
First of all, Tino, good morning. Also, good morning to everyone that's connected today. Although we cannot see each other, hopefully in the next event organized by Tino, this will be possible. And thanks for inviting me to be part of the panel together with Ludovic and Peter. So that's a very interesting question, Tino. There is a lot that you can do as an alliance, which you would not do easily as a single university. And I will give you an example that has to do with our educational activities. So, of course, the Erasmus program has allowed our students already for the past decades to study across European countries. But what we are trying to build within UFE and what we have launched as a pilot activity in July is a framework where our students can much more flexibly choose their curriculum. So we pull together, for example, our educational offer, our educational expertise, to give them the possibility to pick those courses that will best contribute to shaping the curriculum that will allow them to achieve their professional and personal development goals. In our youth introduction offer that was launched at the end of July, for a small group of students, because let's not forget, we are in a pilot phase. So we are working with relatively small numbers. We have had the first 200 students enrolling to take up up to 2 academic courses and 1 language course in the first semester. The courses offered by our alliance are delivered by all the 10 universities that are part of our network. So I think this is unique, and it can be really a game changer in the future of higher education.
Well, this is an interesting point. You said the students are participating in creating the curriculum. I don't understand this. I mean, normally students, even when they leave universities, they don't know what they want to do. How can they create a curriculum or a study plan for someone else? Is this a miracle?
So they're choosing for themselves, and of course they do it also with the supervision. But you actually touched upon a point that is still valid in our alliance, because our students, with their experience, will contribute to co-create the programs and education of the future. And in our next pilot activity, we will have the students enrolled to actually sign up a co-creation agreement so that their contribution is not only real, but it's also proven for their own track as well. So it's not that they will be immediately deciding randomly which courses, are added to the programs, but they will have the possibility, because of a more flexible framework, to select what will be of added value for their training.
Now you have involved the students already in the application, in the project of UFE, so you have discussed with students about this. Do you have the impression that the students who participated, that they had a good grasp of what is the necessary curricular topics of today? What were your impression?
Students indeed already since the very beginning, since March or April 2018, as part of our core development group. And this group of students also grew over time. And currently we have a student forum, of which I'm very proud, that's composed of 30 students, 3 from each partner university. They not only have a good idea about what is needed for a resilient and relevant education, they can also very sharply make a connection with what is societally relevant. And especially now, at times of COVID, they bring in the perspective from the students that are brought into a completely different context. They are not able to attend lessons always in the same way, and they provide each other with mutual support, but they can also advise on which tools would be relevant for the future, for our alliance, but also for individual universities.
You also have as a very core term of your project a virtual campus. Now I was wondering, I mean, MOOCs and remote learning are anything but new. You have Coursera, you have edX, you have iVersity, I think it's German, and there are many non-commercial platforms too, and companies use training online since ever. I mean, where's the new element here? Or is it a political thing to make universities create? What's the new element in this virtual campus?
What we want to achieve with the virtual campus is provide a single door to enter our university community, not only for the students, but also for citizens and for other stakeholders. For the students, we want to allow them to apply and enroll for courses that are delivered by different universities via this virtual campus. They will not need to go to the website of one university or the other, but they will have this, I would say, virtual educational highway, and they will also have access to the non-academic activities that the Alliance is building together with the non-academic partners, with the cities, the regions, the citizens. So it's much more than just a website.
And also, you mentioned when we talked before the UFE Academy. I had the impression that this project has already started with some offers of lectures. How does that work? And can I make a degree there, or how is it?
At the moment, this lecture, so the Academy was launched, actually it's launching tomorrow with the first lecture. And the topic that is addressed in this first Academy is European identity and responsibilities in a global world. There are 20 lectures over 5 weeks until the 3rd of December, and it's open to all students, citizens, staff. At the moment, it's not that you will get a degree. It's an activity that you undertake voluntarily, but of course in the future will also be something that can be connected to a citizen's learning curriculum, for example.
All right. When you have these different lectures of professors and other people where can learn something, do they all speak in English? Do they speak in different languages? Are there language problems? I mean, this is an interesting fact in this concept of the university alliances too. How is the language question here?
So the Academy, the first edition is in English currently, but really this is a very important point, because as I said, we are targeting not only students whose English level is already has to be already at a certain level, but we are also targeting citizens, individuals that might not speak the language, foreign language, as well as this with the academy would require. So in the future, of course, ideally, we would like to have also multilingualism delivered. You could think of having subtitles, translations, and we will be exploring some of these venues. But as I said before, we have to start from something. So we launched this academy in English for this first version of the pilot. And the next step will have to be, for sure, to also investigate and test how we can effectively also communicate in other languages.
All right. Well, this is a point I'm very interested in because I also studied languages. Well, I'd like to ask Ludovic also something because his alliance is also very interesting. Monsieur Tilly, bonjour. Comment ça va à Poitiers?
Everything is very well, except that we are now under lockdown in France, but that's a different story.
Well, we have a beautiful weather. You can look outside the window.
True.
Monsieur Tilly, you cannot imagine how much my visit in Poitiers last February encouraged me to continue this exploration of the European university alliances. I want to thank you for that again. And the first point is that your concept of your university alliance, which entered the group of university alliances just this year, your name is Campus of City University. So there's a focus of the city and the university. And I would first ask, what does this mean?
So this whole story about the strong cooperation between cities and universities is something that started a long time ago. It started actually under, let's say, a different framework. To be more precise, it started under the Coimbra Group, that is a network of long-standing comprehensive universities in Europe that I'm also chairing, but that's again a different story. But this was based on a very long-standing cooperation that some universities do have with their cities, in particular when they were created several centuries ago. And with time, they really developed a sort of a symbiotic relationship with their cities. And this is in particular the case in Poitiers, and this is how we arrived to this concept of the so-called Poitiers Declaration, where we really create a framework where there is a real policy discussion between university and the city on all the fields where universities are also playing. So basically now we would call that the knowledge square. It was not called like that a few years ago, but this is clearly everything related to education, research, innovation, and service to society. Service to society being understood also in terms of bringing culture, bringing critical thinking to the citizens and so on. So this whole concept of very strong cooperation with the city was at the core of our alliance, and all the 7 universities that are in the alliance do have the same strong commitment to be in continuous contact with the citizens that are living very close to the campuses, but who are also actually participating to the many activities of the universities. So this is why this is basically the EC2U DNA.
I could imagine that your close cooperation with the city, you can do it as Poitiers alone. I wonder, what is the international cooperation adding here?
Actually, you're right in the sense that all our 7 universities, they have already built some specific relationship, not always the same, by the way. Sometimes there is a focus on something which is a bit more a sort of local specificity, if I may call it like that. But altogether, what we want to bring is all these strengths to really create, and this is actually something that we are currently working on the another proposal that we are developing for the Horizon 2020 project, this idea of really building a sort of pan-European knowledge ecosystem, where basically we would create a network of all these local ecosystems, which altogether can really not only provide, let's say, opportunities to the citizens to also learn what is going on at the different other universities, but also all the other actors, typically the industries, the businesses, the SMEs, can also work at the level of that network. So it's really bringing new opportunities for all actors.
Ludovic, this last thing with the different actors who cooperate with the university, now that your ECU2U alliance has been formed, can you give us an example? I know the alliance has only started, but can you give us an example, please?
So actually, there are many things which were already started without waiting to be selected. But of course, everything will be much faster now that we are officially under the label of this initiative by the European Commission. What we are currently starting is really create also tools, and that's an example of the things that we can not really do without the expertise of other partners. We are really building at the level of the alliance some joint tools, and one of them is called the ECTU Connect Center, which will actually be a sort of a series of platforms which will be not only useful to the internal life of the alliance. I'm talking here about managing the mobility of all these people, the students, teachers, researchers, etc. But also making platforms where we can continuously be in contact with these other actors. So that will really boost the capacity to cooperate by having joint shared tools. And that's a typical example. Another one would be that we are going to create a so-called entrepreneurial academy, which also will promote entrepreneurship among the students, but also among the other actors within the university, where there is not so much of this tradition about entrepreneurship, the researchers, sometimes the teachers as well. And we're really building on all the strengths of the 7 partners here.
Just let me mention that we have now over 100 participants on YouTube. I wanted to thank you all to be with us. We have a Slido link. You go on Slido and then you put UUU, and then you can enter your questions if you have some that we could ask our participants. And we will have a look in these questions quite in a moment. So that would be interesting. Thank you. Ludovic, while I was listening, I was thinking about my friend who is a researcher like you and who has always worries about intellectual property and these things, and there are different legal laws regarding higher education, as we have seen in Hungary, and there are also especially let's say security mechanisms for researchers. Now the cooperation across countries, do you think that this, let's say, if the countries get closer in their regulations about intellectual property, is this a good thing? Is this a progress? Where are the difficulties here, and what these university alliances, what they are doing in this field?
Well, I think that here we are really exactly touching upon what is the global objective of this initiative. It started by, let's say, boosting more, let's say, the education part of it, because it has been funded under the Erasmus program, and basically here precisely respond. Typically, what we are going to develop all the 41 alliances is really a mapping of all the obstacles that we are currently facing, but there are also opportunities that we can really grasp on building new ways of teaching among the different partners, how to create the so-called European degree, etc. So this request requires actually to find, identify all the obstacles which are sometimes due to the differences in regulations within all the European countries. And the same goes with the research and innovation, where although research and innovation is something which is already more developed at the level of the whole European Union, there are still some national limitations in indeed sharing intellectual properties, etc. So this is typically where we want to go all together, to identify with all the different activities which will be, because when you look at the end with the 41 alliances, there will be hundreds of initiatives which will not be all the same. So with this, we will have a full mapping of all the opportunities and obstacles that we need to solve. So I think this is exactly what the whole initiative is aiming at.
I would like to also to ask Daniela in this point. You are also, and also Easy to You develops online platforms for teaching, for instance. But like a more political question, are these virtual infrastructures that the universities alliances are building, are they, do you consider them as a genuinely European solution? Is this something where public institutions build infrastructures which are independent from commercial infrastructures like Zoom and Google and so on? Is this part of the plan, or is it just my interpretation? Daniela, how do you see that?
Of course, we want to build the tools. In this case, what you're mentioning is a technology tool for education, but also for societal engagement that should be as open as possible. So what you witness is that for many activities currently, the tools available are paid tools. But I strongly, and we believe in UFE, that we have to build also the expertise and continue to cooperate in Europe so that the online learning, online knowledge availability is inclusive, open, and can really be put to the service of as many learners and citizens as possible. Of course, there are a number also of issues that need to be taken into account. So it's not trivial to build a virtual platform or a virtual campus. There are security issues, there are GDPR issues. So it's a very complex topic. And like Ludovic was saying, working with such a big partnership also allows us to have access to a multitude of expertise, of human resources, not only financial resources. We can discuss that later, because obviously what we are starting to build with our 41 alliances is something extremely complex that will also financially require a certain degree of stability for the pilot phase and beyond. That is very key towards the success of the initiative. And when you start talking about IT and online technology, that's also something that has major costs that are not always affordable for a single institution. So again, another opportunity for major progress within an alliance. And
well.
Their approach is a wonderful example of how universities can be, in Europe more than anywhere else in the world in the future, the engine of a society that is based on knowledge, on innovation, and that can be more cohesive, that can allow citizens, like Ludovic was saying, to be able to think critically. We see also the spreading of fake news nowadays. And in UFE also, we believe that it is our responsibility as universities to contribute to citizenship where individuals are able to distinguish truth from false information.
I like this answer. In fact, it's a good point to come to the end of the first half of our encounter here. Do we already have questions on Slido? May I have them? Okay, I'm getting them now. I want to say the break that will come in 2 minutes, we will unfortunately not have our science slam. The artist is ill, but we improvised some short news break on European higher education, after which we pick up with our other two guests, Vanessa Debier-Santon from the European Commission and Kees Kouwenaar, who is the coordinator of the Aurora Alliance. Well, I don't know if the Slido questions are coming. Seems so. I'm really curious what people are asking. Thank you. It's loading. Right. Well, are they ranked? Yeah, a little bit. Well, this is a question for Vanessa de Biessanton. Question to Monsieur Tilly. I don't believe this is Artur Banaszkiewicz from Poland. Ludovic Tilly, this question is for you. I don't believe you gave an example of benefits of international dimension to the initiative. Can you be more specific, please?
The question, should I be more specific?
Arthur said, I don't believe you gave an example of benefits of the international dimension of the initiative. Can you be more specific, please? Like benefits of the international dimension.
Well, actually, this would require a lot of time because the benefits of international cooperation are so numerous. For instance, when I look at my own university, of course, what I'm going to briefly discuss here are numbers before the COVID-19 pandemic crisis, of course, because as we all know, physical mobility has been severely impacted by this crisis, of course, and it's still the case. But before this, we had and we still have 30,000 students, among which are about 4,000 international students, and about 50% of our international doctoral candidates are also international. So which means that typically this flow of students in and out has an immediate impact on how our own university is transforming. This is really helping what we call the internationalization at home, because all the presence of these international students within the classroom do have an impact on also the understanding of the other that the other students do have. But also our own research is also positively affected by the presence of all these international doctors candidates, because they have sometimes a different research culture, so they would also enrich the way we perform research. And we could add a lot of other very positive aspects, just like we all know that students who have performed in Erasmus mobility are changed forever. And I'm not just talking about the so-called Erasmus babies, I'm just talking about the millions of students, being one of them myself, that once you have done mobility abroad, your critical thinking is completely different, your mind is completely open to the others, etc., etc.
All right, I see we have more need of discussions like this. We come back to this, and now, for a little moment, we have a short news break before we return with the other two. Daniela and Ludovic, thank you very much so far for the conversation. Let's go to our news break now. Thank you. Maybe we should talk about some higher education news. Here, the European Court of Justice has ruled that the higher education law in Hungary is not in line with EU law. The law was made against the CEU, the Central European University in Budapest, which has been founded by George Soros. And this university has now already moved to Vienna. But however, the court ruling of the ECJ is there, and now if Hungary doesn't comply, the EU can fine it. Another news, very important, in Brussels now there are the negotiations for the multi-annual budget, and the dramatic turn has occurred. The European Parliament budget rapporteur Pierre Larrouturou is on hunger strike. He and other MEPs believe there should be a top-up, there should be extra 39 billion euro for Horizon Europe, Erasmus and other forward-looking programs instead of cuts. Well, here, London, researchers in England get more and more nervous because the transition period is nearly over. On the 1st of January, probably we will land with a no deal, and it will be tough for UK researchers to continue collaborating with the EU, and for Europeans, like the 14.4 million scientists and engineers that potentially want to work in the UK, will have to face hurdles like visa costs. A visa for a scientist with a family might cost up to 19,000 euro for 5 years. Well, the last news interesting too. In Paris, student flats cost now more than in London. Well, they have risen in the last half year by 4 to 7%. Well, I gotta go. I want to talk to Peter van der Heyden before we restart with the show. So see you there. Hello again. Let's talk with our man in Brussels, the man with the bow tie, Peter van der Heyden. Peter, you are welcome, first of all. You are counseling universities when they apply for funds, and you write policy papers to help even the European Commission to assemble their own thoughts. One question for you before you help us understand this university policy we have been starting with. We have just heard the news about the multi-annual framework budget of the EU, and that Monsieur Larrouturou, a French member of the parliament, is on hunger strike because he demands more money for the research and education budget, and he also demands a 0.1 tax on I think on stock exchange and money transfer, trading of stocks and bonds, and like a little small contribution of the rich to the European budget. But actually, you know so well the European Commission and what goes on there. Do you know what these current debates, discussions on the budget really mean? Whose interests are conflicting there?
It is a traditional pushing and pulling between Parliament and Council and Commission. And the Commission is ambitious also on the own income, this form of tax, for which you gave one example of taxing the big companies of social media. The Commission is also in favor of I'm not speaking on behalf of the Commission, so I'm looking as an independent, and but even when I worked there, it was always pushing and pulling. Commission is ambitious, Parliament is even more ambitious. You could say over-ambitious, but that's always good. And then the Council is pulling back. And the Council of Ministers and the heads of state and government, they're responsible for their national budget. Maybe the Education and Research Minister wants to give more to Erasmus and Horizon, but the Finance Minister does not. So it's pushing and pulling. It's looking for alternative sources, like the Next Generation, this recovery fund. It's playing with time. You can say, well, less money now, more money in future. Something will come out. It will be more than we had before. It will be less than we had hoped for.
Yeah, the last Horizon budget was 80 billion. Now, Monsieur Larrouturou wants 39 billion more for Horizon Europe and Erasmus. Sounds a lot, and is it realistic? What does these numbers mean actually?
Not the total that the Parliament wants, or this member of Parliament, but something will come out in the end. It's also in the interest of the member states. The more you invest in education innovation, the better you come out economically later on. So I think there's a strong awareness of that. We have the additional fund of 750 billion. It's almost a doubling of the EU budget. And we must try to gear that towards topping up our education and research and innovation programs and doing other things that have the color and the taste of innovation. And if European University Alliances position themselves well, come with plans, I always learned money follows ideas.
When we talked before, you said that the European University Initiative money, the 5 million they get for 3 years, plus the Horizon Europe 2 million, and maybe other sources. You said this money is a lot, but not enough really to make decisive changes. You said, but it's a good benchmarking exercise. I don't really understand what you meant by this. Can you explain?
Well, first of all, the money, I always try to annoy my audience. The money is too much. 5 million from Erasmus, 2 million for Horizon, to organize your modernization. It's not to do a lot, it's to make plans, to put structures in place. And it's money to meet, basically. And as you know, we cannot meet. So the money has even doubled, more or less, thanks to COVID, because now you can spend it on more useful things if the eligibility rules of the Commission allow you to do so. So 5 million, no, let's say 7 million, that's what the Commissioner says, because she's responsible for Erasmus and Horizon. She says 7 million to talk with your 6 partners about getting your house in order. That's a lot. That's a lot. You cannot run a faculty for 7 million, but you can prepare the plans. The real money, of course, will then have to come from other sources, the rest of Horizon, the European structural and investment funds, meaning that our colleagues in the poor regions of Europe are the rich members of the European University Alliances, because they can really build new campuses with that structural fund money. And as I said before, we have the 715 billion of Ursula or of Michel, of the Council and the Commission, which they now desperately are looking for meaningful ways to spend. So I would not worry about the money, I would worry about your ideas. Make sure that you have very good ideas. And those you can learn from the benchmarking. That was your question. If you sit together in an alliance of 7, one has the best library, one has the best HR, the best incentive system for staff. One has the smoothest student admission. Well, after 3 years, after 5 years, I would expect all 7 to be as good as the best one in the group. And that is a very important task of the European universities, benchmarking, next to the fact that they are supposed to integrate part of their missions. Not all their missions, but part of. So that's the double assignment. Get your act together, modernize, and do some integration.
Well, Peter, thank you so far. I think we're now opening up to our other 2 guests, Vanessa Dibier-Santon and Kees Kovenaar. Madame Dibier-Santon and geehrter Herr Kovenaar, are you with us? Yes, I can start in the meanwhile. Madame Dibier-Santon is the head of the higher education unit at the European Commission. She studied chemical engineering and also worked for chemical companies before she went into the European Commission. Tomorrow she will gather all the rectors of the University Alliance for a big meeting, because the second batch of 24 more university alliances have been recently selected. And our second partner in this second half of our debate is Kees Kovenaar. He's an expert of internationalization because he works there for a long time. He's Secretary General of the Aurora Alliance, also a new university alliance. He graduated in history. He worked for NUFIC, this is kind of the Dutch British Council. And he lives in Amsterdam and loves cycling with his wife. So, do we have the other members of the debate present? Let's see. Kees is there. I'm not seeing Ms. Dibier-Santon yet. She's there. She's there. Good. Madame Dibier-Santon, bonjour.
Oh, guten Tag.
Welcome to our conversation. It was very interesting in the beginning with Daniela
and Ludovic. You are now speaking from and for the European Commission. Maybe it's interesting for the listeners to understand how this works. The European Commission executes what the European governments want. And you told me that this European University Initiative was something after Macron presented it in his speech in the Sorbonne in 2017. Maybe it was an idea.
You told me that the special thing about these alliances were that they're a bottom-up initiative. So that would mean that the university sector, the universities, the people in the universities shaped the program, helped shaping the program too. Can you a little bit explain how this mechanism works and where are we now?
Yes, thank you very much for your question, Tino. So indeed, everything started with the speech of Emmanuel Macron to create these European universities. And of course, everybody was very pleased that suddenly education becomes very high on the political agenda. This had not been the case for many years. At the same time, the wide and diverse higher education community were wondering about what it is, because all the universities are European somehow. So then we gathered diverse experts from the higher education community with many networks. Aurora and the Coimbra group were part of these stakeholders, and we started to co-create this new initiative together to say, look, we have an opportunity, let's check it, to do things that we have always dreamed to do, but we never had the resources or the funding to do it. So we started together dreaming. And at the beginning, we dreamt in very different directions, as you can imagine, because we have a very diverse landscape in Europe with very diverse needs. But then the longer term we looked at, and then the more convergent the ideas were. And this is how we came up together with this concept of European universities, which aims not to do what we already do now, but we are aiming at doing what is not happening yet. And I was very pleased by listening to Ludovic and to Daniela before. They gave very good examples of what these European universities are about. First, this is not a European project, you know, that you give funding for 3 years and then if you're lucky it continues, but in many cases they cannot continue. So here it's not a project, it's a long-term initiative. What we have been asking them is to dream about the universities of the future, what they want to be together. So an alliance of about 7 higher education institutions from all parts of Europe, what they want to become in 10, 20 years' time. The novelty already and the impact, and it will answer one of the previous questions on what is really the international impact. Well, what we have seen in these partnerships is that already it has created new partnerships, because before, if you looked at the mapping in this cooperation, international cooperation, it was very much either Western-centered or Eastern-centered, but we didn't have really strong partnerships bringing Northern, Southern, Eastern and Western partners together. So that's already one transformational aspect. The second one, as Ludovic and Daniela explained before, is really to transform the way we teach and the way we learn. And this has even more accelerated with the COVID-19, moving all the learning teaching activities online. No one was prepared with such a change so quickly. And what we have learned from the European universities is that more than 96% of them, well, all of them, think that actually if their European universities had already been in place, they would have been much better prepared for this pandemic, as they are setting up in European inter-university campuses, meaning that a student in, let's say, in Berlin, in the University of Berlin, they will not have access only to the courses of Berlin University, but they will have access to the courses of all the other partners across Europe. So it's really a huge benefit. So in terms of impact, it has a huge leverage impact when it comes to mobility, whether it is physical, virtual or blended, because here we are addressing at the full population of the students of these universities, and it has a huge leverage in terms of the structural and transformational impact structurally in these universities to really structurally transform the way they teach and the way they learn and the way they do research. Because as Ludovic explained very well, we're speaking about the knowledge square, meaning that here we are looking at the transformation in the 4 different missions of universities: education, research, innovation, and service to society. So we are very
Vanessa,
Vanessa?
let me ask here. It's interesting. Someone has a question that I also had. There has been in the beginning the question how these university alliances should be shaped. Some were more tending toward an elite model, like the Ivy League in America, and some were more tending to do something on the broad scale, as it is now, with 280 universities participating. That is 1 in 11 in the European Union and 1 in 14 all over Europe. So for now, you have a very broad program. However, the question here is this University Alliance initiative something like the German Excellency Initiative, like something that wants to create special universities that have more money and who leave the others behind?
Well, the objective that has been set up by the head of state, heads of governments, and also with their ministers responsible for higher education was to have an initiative that is as inclusive as possible. Inclusive in terms of geographical balance, meaning that all the member states should be part of it. Inclusive in terms of the types of higher education institutions, so not only the top research leading universities, but also universities of applied sciences, for example, and inclusive in terms of the accessibility to a wide range of students. But this inclusivity doesn't mean that they're not excellent. It all depends how you define excellence. It's excellence not only in top research, it's excellence in the way you deliver teaching and learning, in the way you're going to set in place completely new innovative pedagogies, in the way you're going to involve all the, as Ludovic explained before, all your surrounding innovation ecosystem, working together with the cities, with the regions, with the surrounding companies. And we believe that inclusion and excellence are the 2 aspects of the same coin, and that they are reinforcing each other.
Yeah, there's even another question which is very interesting from our viewers. Anonymous says, given the current discussion on migration, climate change, etc., does it make sense to have an European university, and what is so specific about it?
Asked all these European universities to think about, okay, what is their strategy for the future? On which topics do they want to train their students? Not only topics, but how they're going to implement this challenge-based approach. Meaning that one of the transformation is, of course, to train students on very specific disciplines and to develop an expertise for each of them, but to go even beyond that, so that they are able together, students from different disciplines with different expertise, to be able to work together on big challenges like climate change. Many of them, among the 41 European universities, have sustainable development and tackling climate change at the core of their strategy, meaning that they will have students from different disciplines that will work with academics, with researchers, with the cities, with the regions, with the companies, to tackle very concrete challenges that their cities or their regions are facing. Now, we also, because we can understand the question in many different ways, it could be that traveling, etc., is not good for climate. So this is why we are also developing a green future Erasmus program, meaning that we will support and we will encourage greener transport when it comes to mobility, but we're also going to support blended mobility. So it means shorter physical mobility blended with virtual mobility. So all this will contribute to preserve the climate. A third element as well will be that, you know, so far to organize the mobility, we used a lot of paper. Now, this is something of the past. With the European Student Card Initiative, we are aiming at digitalizing all this process to organize the mobility by allowing this interoperability between all the diversity of IT systems of universities across Europe, so that all these systems will be able to speak to each other. And this is what the Erasmus Plus, Erasmus Without Paper project is aiming at.
Wow. Well, I need 15 more of these debates to clear this up. Let me switch for a moment to Kees Kouwenaar, who's joining us from Amsterdam and who is the Secretary General Coordinator of the Aurora initiative. Aurora has all these keywords also in their project description. Mr. Kouwenaar, you are an expert of internationalization. So I like the project description of Aurora a lot. What would you say in one sentence or two at least, at maximum? What is the unique aspect of your alliance? What makes it? What is emerging from it, from the others? Is she not there?
You're not there at the moment?
Kees, you're muted. You need to unmute yourself.
Yes,
muted.
Muted.
Yes. No, before it was Berlin that could mute and unmute me, but now I've become independent, like Peter.
Hello, welcome.
Hello, welcome.
Hi. Yes, I need to speak in one sentence about the network before I move to the alliance. Aurora was founded in 2016. So before President Macron's speech, to actually do very similar things as we're now in the whole idea of the European University Initiative. We were founded as a group of universities who came together to help each other to become better at what they want to be good at. And for Aurora universities, this means better at matching academic excellence with societal relevance. It's a group of universities that fights the idea that academic excellence and societal relevance are each other's enemies. And international collaboration in Aurora has never been an objective per se. It is a tool to that end, not a separate objective. It is a high trust network which allows universities to openly talk about their weaknesses and their challenges in a way they feel they cannot do that with their domestic competitors. And this will not change with the alliance. But the core of the alliance program is that we say we need to equip our students, our graduates, with not only the academic and the subject-specific knowledge, but with the skills and the horizontal mindsets to help them to be able and willing to address the big challenges in society. And the key tool in our alliance program is what we call the Aurora Competence Framework, and is based on the analysis that in higher education at large, in our universities in Europe, in the world, we are still not good enough in finding clear expression in how good our students need to be when they graduate, not just in chemistry or history, but also in critical thinking, in group work, in inquiry and analysis, in taking risks. And this framework will develop a set of expressions which academics can choose from to build these horizontal learning outcomes into their curricula across the Aurora universities and any other university that would like to use them, to create a language, a common language and a common toolbox for learning outcomes in horizontal competencies. So that's what we're all about.
All right. I remember when Macron held a speech, his definition of these European universities was more vague. But one thing he said, it was the multilingual aspect. He wanted the students to learn at least 2 extra languages. I didn't look it up, but I want to know, has Aurora an answer to the language question?
It is our task team 3.3.2, which is called plurilingual languages. When writing the proposal, I have learned that there is a major conceptual difference between plurilingualism and multilingualism. We have a group that is developing all kinds of tools to help our students to develop their competence, their plurilingual competence, not only in the second, but also in a third European language, yes.
So I suppose, there is language courses included in the other mobility programs, or how does it work?
I don't understand that question. Can you repeat?
Well, if I am a student now in your network and I'm participating in a course or in an activity that the Aurora network offers, I'm now speaking one other language, and perhaps I would need another one. Practically, how would you, do you know how the network wants to implement multilingualism or polylingualism in their activities?
It is an excellent question, and the honest answer is no. Actually, the Alliance has officially started this week, 1st of November. Tomorrow and the day after, we have our launching virtual meeting with many of the task teams. Plurilingualism is not one of them, but they are now going to make their plans to create tools for the universities to have to give students opportunities to learn languages. But let me underline, the core of our Alliance program is not focused on moving bodies. The core of our Alliance is to give all the 9 universities the tools to improve the education, the teaching and learning processes within their universities. And that also includes international mobility. But it includes mobility. The focus is making the normal education better in all our universities.
Well, I would ask you a policy question, because you were talking about the learning outcomes before as a measurement of success or of advancement. The European program for these university alliances has evolved. It was a first call, there was a second call in which you were successful with your alliance, and it will evolve further. What are your proposals for the further development of this program? What should be in there, what's not in yet, or how should it be better?
I think Peter van der Heyden once told me that the European Commission is, of course, at the end of the day, more interested in supporting the domestic, regional improvement of higher education in its own context than in the transnational cooperation, which is always a small outer skill for all of the universities. But because of their position, they have to focus strongly on the transnational dimension, because that is their given political role. I would like to argue that in the further development of these corporations, these European university initiatives, we keep our main focus on helping our universities to serve their community as well as they possibly can at city level, regional level, national level, European level, and global level. And not put all our eggs in the basket of the transnational European dimension. It should flow from the natural objectives of the universities and not be positioned as a priority. It can be made a priority for the administrators, for the rectors. It will never become a priority for the academics who want to go on doing what they are self-motivated for.
This is a point where I would like to return to Vanessa de Biais-Sainton for a moment, because in fact this question before about the European identity and dimension demands for it. Monsieur de Biais-Sainton, can you say something about this program, how it reaches out, so that we're not so Eurocentric all the time, how it reaches out to countries and universities beyond the European Union? Can you specify on this, how far the program does it? I know Istanbul is in and England, but how does this program go further than European Union?
Well, so far, the initiative is open to all the Erasmus Plus program countries, so 33 countries, including those that you mentioned. We were very happy to welcome Norway, Iceland, Turkey, even Serbia. So this is the current scope of this initiative. Now, you know that we have announced that we're going to roll out this initiative under the next MFF, so with the next Erasmus program in synergy with the Horizon Europe and other European programs. So then here the scope will be discussed once more time with the member states. But in the meantime, each of these universities, so we have currently more than 284 higher education institutions involved in these 41 European universities. Each of them have their own network, with whom they cooperate, not only within Europe, but also beyond. And it's obvious that all their partners beyond Europe will benefit from this alliance because they will benefit from the transformation that they are going to put in place, which means that also the staff, the researchers, the students who will cooperate with them will not only cooperate with the University of Berlin, but they will cooperate with all the partners from the European University where Berlin University is involved, for example. So it completely changed the perspective, and they are very much looking at it with a lot of interest. And we know already that many universities beyond Europe would like to see how they could be even more involved in this initiative. But of course, this is not the decision of the Commission. This is a decision to be taken with the member states.
Oh, well, this is interesting. Maybe I should make an inquiry on how the universities in South America and in Africa, how they perceive this initiative. And after a few years, we ask how much they have been involved. This would be really interesting. I'd like to, Peter von der Heyden, I see you're keen on intervening with some critical questions. What were your thoughts while we were talking with Ms. de Biais-Sainton and the case Kovenar so far?
You're muted, Peter.
Like Trump.
Like Trump.
Bottom left.
Okay, listen to Vanessa and Kees, and also to Daniela and Ludovic. You see this interesting tension, or not a tension, it's a combination of things. It is both big and small, nitty-gritty. European universities are for the big boys and girls, the big shots, and it's for the staff and the students. Why is it big? Why is it interesting for presidents and rectors? Because what Daniela said is not a project. It's a transformation of your university through the participation in an alliance. Very different animal. It's an immediate organization, an alliance. It's doing things. It's not only talking. And that's why the president comes in. In German, it's called Chef. So it's Chefsache. It's something for the prime minister or for the rector or for the president. Why? Because it's geopolitical. It's geopolitical in the big sense. It's positioning Europe in the world. Can we come out stronger? It's positioning your university in your region. And what alliance should you join to position yourself now and in the future? That's for the big boys. For the staff members, it is also relevant because they are the professionals that run the alliance. Every alliance has 30, 40 staff teams. Kees Kouwen was mentioning that the staff teams were going to meet. And those are the professionals that make the change. Directors of studies, library deputies, HR officials, student admission specialists. They will make the student admission system of Aurora work. Or the HR mobility scheme of UFE. thanks to those people. And they have now, thanks to Vanessa, thanks to Macron, they have a career in the European perspective. Of course, most of them will stay home, but some will do a secondment or even pursue their career at the partner institution. That makes it interesting for the big boys and for the workers on the floor. Now, my question is to the panel and to all of us in the coming year, is this enough? Is this enough to substantially, and now let's use the names of our alliances, is this enough to substantially re-euphenize our higher education? Is it substantial enough to engage, to enhance, to enlighten, and maybe even to charm? That's the question. And can our systems really become better this bottom-up way? I think they can. The benchmarking is important, but I would like to leave two ideas on the table. One is a rotating grant. We now have 41 grants for 41 alliances who are already building themselves up like trade unions to get more money after. But I would say, well, let's make it a rotating grant and invite new ones, or kick out 1/3 and get 1/3 new in. Because we don't have the Fachhochschule alliances, not enough, the schools of applied sciences. We miss the military academies. We miss a number of what I call system relevant institutions that could also benefit from the blessings from the curse of being a European University Alliance. So that's one idea, a rotating grant, not for tomorrow, but for the year to come to think about. And the second one, we should explore the Swiss question. And the Swiss question is that Switzerland has good education, high education in all cantons, most of them, but they have two universities that stand out. And they were, it's EPFL in Lausanne.
Mr. Kovenaar, what's your reaction to these many ideas of Peter van der Heyden?
A policy making one or two single high peaks by carving out the valleys among them, because then you would lower the average quality. So that's one thing. The other comment that I have, I think it relates to what you say in some way, citing an Israeli historian, Yuval Harari, one of many, who said, reality is a narrative. Universities do not exist. Universities are simply narratives that exist as long as we are convinced that the narrative has some value and some merit. But universities are very different narratives to very different groups. The university narrative for academics, for researchers, for teachers, for students, for administrators, for leaders, for alumni, for external stakeholders are vastly different narratives. The European University Alliance, and that's my bridge to what you say, will become a paradigm-changing development like Erasmus was in '87 and Bologna was 10 years later, only if there is enough conviction in the various distinct narratives for these groups of stakeholders to carry on the burden themselves. I'm in favor of your rotating fund. I think the European University Alliance, the Erasmus, the Aurora Alliance cannot depend on Brussels money. It can only succeed if there is enough intrinsic motivation, not just with the rector or the administrators, but with the academics and the students. And it must be something that we do because we want to do it ourselves. The Commission gives us some support to help us do what we want to do ourselves anyway. That's the only way forward.
I would like to ask the last question also to Madame de Biais-Santon. Is there also a perception in the European Commission that this European University Alliance initiative is a further step, is like a natural further step after Erasmus, after the Bologna process, like a historical further development of the way European universities and European higher education is evolving? Is there an idea of this like a progress that now must enter into these university alliances, Madame de Biais-Santon? How is the idea in the European Commission about this?
Yes, absolutely, Tino. That's exactly the way we see it. In international cooperation, you start generally with mobility. The strategic partnership. Then a little bit more ambitious, you have Erasmus Mundus and you have the knowledge alliances. And then very, very ambitious, the most ambitious, which has never existed before, are the European universities. And we have a lot of ambition with this initiative, not only to transform the wide higher education landscape and diverse higher education landscape, as Peter and Keith explained, but also to make it a reality. So, and here I come back to the question of Peter. To make it a reality, we will need all these universities. Of course, we need the support of their national governments, and they will need the support of the European Commission. How? Because of course, they will need not only all the top leaders of these universities to be on board, but also all their students and staff, because as Peter said, rightly so, they are the one who will basically implement all the activities. But we need as well to continue to implement even further the Bologna process. For example, when it comes to accreditation or quality assurance, we are not yet there. And this is why we see this initiative as a catalyst for change. And this is why we will meet tomorrow all the rectors and coordinators of these European universities together with the directors general responsible for higher education, especially at this point. How can we make quality assurance and accreditation more fit for purpose, more modern, to meet, the objective of these European universities? What kind of the head of state and Emmanuel Macron asked us to create a European degree. It does not exist now. We need to co-create it together. The European universities told us that when putting resources, data, infrastructure together, they need a specific legal statute. So we're going to explore together with them a European legal statute for them. We are also looking at, with the COVID-19 crisis, the labor market transformation is accelerating even more than before when it comes to the digital and the green transition. So we need to upskill, reskill the labor workforce, and the role of higher education is absolutely key. So we're working as well to develop credentials. So all this requires a lot of ambition, a lot of vision at European, national and institutional level. So the road will be bumpy, but all together I'm convinced that we can make it. So this is our vision for the future that we have expressed in the recent communication on achieving a European education year by 2025. and with the Digital Education Action Plan to support as well universities in their digital transformation.
Well, thank you for this overview. In fact, I would like to slowly close the debate and thank you all for your participation. I might like to say the small thing, which is also the historical dimension of this thing. One of my historical heroes actually comes from the city of Daniela Trani from Naples. It's Federico II, Friedrich II, King of Sicily and of Germany in the early 13th century. And he was the first to found a non-religious university, a university independent from the Pope, his great adversary, in 1224. This university was, if I'm not wrong, the 12th university in Europe. Before it was Bologna and Paris, of course, and they were all dominated by the Pope. And Federico's reign, his monarchy, was the most advanced and well organized of his time. And why? Because he had well-trained administration and people, and he wanted to further this this good policy by building this first laïc university in Naples, in Napoli. And well, I have a feeling that these European university alliances could be examples and could work out models that help all the other universities who are not in the alliances too. I am very optimistic that there will be very many interesting news to tell about their projects, models and initiatives. And I hope we can be part of this with this conversational format. I want to thank you all for the participation today. We have read the most interesting and highest rated questions from Slido, and I thank also the participants from the wider audience who are on YouTube. And well, see you again in December. And well, good day and good luck for everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. Thank you.